I pay respects to this beautiful, sacred land that we are on, which is the land of the Wurundjeri people. I acknowledge their ancestors, the sacred law, which has never, ever been broken and must be acknowledged. I acknowledge that there was theft that took place that led to the development of this so-called city of Melbourne. We are very grateful to be here with a Wurundjeri person in the room, and that is an incredible thing. With the severe genocidal impacts that have affected all Indigenous people, we are here now with a beautiful, powerful, resilient Wurundjeri person. And before we do commence this panel, I'm going to hand it over to them to open it up as it should justly be opened up in this space.
Biladu Nyan Wangat, Naranik Mandy, Wurundjeri Willamik Wurundjeri Balakut, Mundanai Murup Kalar Birang, Ba Pupup Nakurenik, Ba Kiripik, Ba Bikut, Bik Dui Banya Bik, Murnmut Bik, Wuru Bik, Ba Tarangal Bik, Ba Bunjala Willamu, Ba Lalal Ba Gogung Nugulik, Ba Kiripik, Neil, Ba Jaja Wurang Ba Nyura Ilam Wurang Ba German Mundanai Nyawanya Yallingbu Ba Nadok Week. It's a flat out week, 2 weeks for Aboriginal people, but I think Nadok Week and the celebrations that happen throughout these 2 weeks needs to happen throughout the whole year, because as I woke up this morning with a really sore throat, and I thought it's only sort of halfway, a quarter of the way through these 2 weeks, because as Aboriginal people, we put 120% into what we do. We don't just get out there and do dances and sing a few songs. We actually put our heart and soul into what we do. And last night for Neil, we did a little song with my nephew playing the yidiki. But my niece, she was 8 years old, and she got up there and she was singing in a language that hasn't been spoken in my family for at least 2 generations. And she sings those songs word for word. Sometimes she may get the words a little bit wrong, but it doesn't matter. It's all about her hearing and repeating what we're saying. And the way that she does it as an 8-year-old, I actually get all the little girls in my family. We just seem to happen to have a lot of girls in our family. I get them as soon as they're born. They can't escape Auntie Mandy. I get them and I teach them right from scratch all about language, culture and ceremony. So we've got a little dance group called Jitty Jitty, the Willy Wagtail. And the youngest member of that dance group started when she was 10 months old, and she was dancing on her chest, on her mum's chest in a little cradle. And I often think about that little girl. She stares at me because I'm, the loud auntie, but I know that when she first started, she was on this little cradle thing and I could see her little eyes bobbing over, staring at me. And that little girl is the first one in our community to be fully immersed in her culture before she can even speak. And that's something very special, but it's something that's very devastating as well when you think about it. She's the only one, the first one. Myself, I grew up in a house full of love and support, but the ceremonial aspect wasn't there because my dad didn't have opportunities. Then the language wasn't there, but I had to find that myself. And when I found that language, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to speak it or read it or pronounce it correctly. Just found a word list and I thought that's what I want to learn, but I didn't know how to. So my journey along those lines is when I was working at a cultural centre in Hillsville in my late teens, I found that word list. And a little bit further on in my life, I've worked my whole life, but the main job that got me really fully immersed in language and to be able to create language songs and words and phrases in context was the Victorian Aboriginal Corporation for Languages. The linguist there gave me the tools to work out how to use grammar. And that's something that's so important to our people because we can't teach or learn a language from simple dictionary word list. And it's the same with any language. So I made sure that I learnt as much as I could, and that enabled me to reawaken women's dance and song, because, like I said, how could you have no generation or 2 generations of no language speaking that also included no dance, no song, no ceremony? So I've had this fire in my belly, as most Aboriginal or all Aboriginal people do, to make a difference with their own communities and make them staunch and proud of who they are. And what I had to do was I had to learn how to create those sentences and phrases. And I'm not a musician, I'll never say I'm a musician, but I wrote these songs, I put a beat to it, and now these songs are just so powerful when I hear all the little girls singing it, because, like I said, for 2 generations, it could have been lost forever, it wasn't spoken every day, and we've brought it back. So I think it's never too late to learn, because if I didn't do this, none of these little girls would have that cultural grounding, and that's incorporated into the ceremonial aspect as well. So from scratch, from nothing, you can do it. And when you eventually do it, and I know that I've just started, I really want to go further and further and further, so we are all speaking it every day. I have to refresh myself, like when I'm out and about, because I don't work at VACL anymore, I'm studying. I have to look at things out there in the environment and actually call them by their language names, or else I will forget those words. So like a bird or something, I'll see a cocky, I'll have to say in my mind, ngayuk, or I'll say it out loud when the kids are all in the car. So you want to almost forget the English name for that animal. Sometimes I do that. Oh, what's the English name again? And that's like, yeah, good on me, because I'm absorbing it and I want to get rid of that English. So it's something that's been resonating in me, and I'm lucky, so lucky, that I can pass that on to all the little girls and the young women, because it's a really hard time to be, or any time is really hard to be a teenage girl. But I can see in these young women the leadership and the strength that is given to them by knowing their language and their ceremony and songs. So I'm not sure if you wanted me to do a song now or a bit later, or now is fine. Okay. The song I've chosen to sing now is, and it's quite, being in this place, it's a convent. This room that we're in, these long rooms, they had girls in here doing laundry. A lot of those young girls were girls of ill repute, as they were called, and some of those girls were put in here just for looking at a boy, something very simple like that. And they were locked this end of the convent, because there's all these gardens and things over that side, but they weren't allowed to see those gardens. So this place is a very, very colonial, I don't really much like it, but I love how it's been reclaimed by all the different community groups that use it. And what I actually did with Dr. Lou Bennett was we reclaimed it way back before this was here, and we actually worked on a language project called Ngulunganyan, which means everyone's voice. And I thought, how am I going to reclaim this and forget about all the buildings that are here and forget that modern history? And we went way back, and I created a map that goes over the top of this convent in the shape of Bunjil the eagle, and the star system that's connected to him. So there's a sound trail that will be going through. I think it's actually online now, and you download the app, and it has all those little girls speaking about who Bunjil is, why they love dancing, what they wear when they're dancing, and then they're singing in language as well. I think there's 8 or 11, can't remember now, soundscapes. So if you find that online or whatever, it's really worth listening to, because they're on there so proud of their culture. And this song now that I'm going to sing is a song that hasn't been reawakened for such a long time, since the 1800s. And Dr. Lou Bennett again helped us, because I can't really read music or anything. And she found, I found the old record with all the musical notes. And she brought the music back to it. And she taught us how to sing it. And it's a song called Corroboree from William Barak. And he's my 3rd great uncle. And it was written down by, I can't remember who, but he wrote it down from listening to him sing it. And it's about the wetland songlines that stretch right across Victoria. And sometimes we're driving somewhere, I can't remember now, like yesterday, day before, and you can see these old red gums dotted in different places. I think it might have been Heidelberg Way, South Morang. And those trees are the remnants of massive stretch across Victoria of these beautiful red gums that were connected to all the wetlands that were here. So over time, these wetlands disappeared or were drained, but the song actually tells the story of country. It's got two versions of the pelican which are male. Burundangala is a Western Victorian name for pelican. Then we've got Wadjalea is our name for pelican. Then we've got Genenwil the duck and Gunawara the black swan. So the black swan is Bunjil's wife. He's got two wives, two black swans. And the duck is the platypus mother, platypi mother. And they're all water creatures. And the pelican, as we all know, travels long distances to find water, or follow the water. So this is a beautiful song. It's only like a repetitive chant, but when everyone's singing it, it's so powerful. This is Corroboree by Barak. Nga wachalea bundia genen wol nga berndangala yelengia guna waranga wachalea bundia genen wol nga berndangala yelengia guna waranga wachalea bundia genen wol nga berndangala yelengia guna waranga wachalea bundia genen wol nga berndangala yelengia guna waranga. Nga wachalea bundia genen wol nga berndangala yelengia guna waranga wachalea bundia genen wol nga berndangala yelengia guna waranga wachalea bundia genen wol nga berndangala yelengia guna waranga wachalea bundia genen wol nga berndangala yelengia guna waranga. Isn't that a beautiful song? And these old men would have had big lungs on them because that takes your breath away. Sonyungojin, thank you.
Thank you, Sister Mandy, for sharing with us the songs of your people, the story of your people, the survival of your people, the memories of your people, the reconfiguration of the pieces of the beauty, of the magic, of the sacredness of your people's culture, your people's song from the past, in the present, that will also go strongly into the future. Welcome to this panel. It is sound past, sound present, sound future. My name is Neil Morris. I'm a Yorta Yorta man, and it is a privilege every single day that I am living my life on Kulin Nation's land of the Wurundjeri people. And I acknowledge that that is not a free birthright to roam as I please on your country. I am a guest. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Can we get another round of applause, please, for Mandy Nicholson opening up this space? Song has been a powerful part of Indigenous culture across this land, in every single mob's culture, and that is many cultures. That's 500 plus cultures of peoples who are still here in the now, peoples who are connected to chains of experiences that are diverse, tragic, but also inspiring. We all descend as Indigenous people who share with you today from great stories of the trials and tribulations, but also the survivals. And here today there will be a very special panel sharing with you a few of their words, a few of their experiences about sound past, present, and future. Their engagement as Indigenous people within working within music, within being Indigenous people with a cultural responsibility, because as Indigenous people, music is not but a plaything, but it is a sacred necessity to our survival, to express song, to connect to it. But it is only a few Indigenous people who have found their way back to it. It was beaten out of us through both shame and prevention of even being able to practice the practice of creating song. Myself, I come from the Yorta Yorta people. Some people who, through various channels at time, did have some success in post-colonial society with song. There are many amazing names that I can think of, such as Uncle Jimmy Little, who was very blessed to somehow make it, to be able to participate in the music industry at a time when his people were still not considered human, back in the 1950s and 60s. And we had the Yorta Yorta Kamargunja Choir. They were traveling up and down the beautiful Dungala, as our people call it, or you might know of it as the Murray River. But get this, the only reason that they were able to move up and down that river to share their song was not because it was sacred Indigenous song. It was because they were singing songs that came from the Christian church. So the story of our people being enabled to do song or not enabled has been one that has been a challenge, but it has survived. And we're here today to hear from a few of the amazing examples of survival, just as our sister Mandy is of that, and to provide some hope of what the future can be for Indigenous song in this land. In the present music climate, we see unprecedented amounts of Indigenous talent rising to the fore to stamp a sense of leadership upon the music industry, not only a participative place within it. It is my honor to welcome to the mic our first presenter out of our group, sitting alongside me here. Her name is Crystal Clyne. You might know of her as Lady Lash, an incredible artist who's been around for a decade plus, one of the most mesmerizing talents that I've had the honor to have any connection to. She is a Kukatha, also of Greek origin, hip-hop, jazz, and also evolving into other incredible spaces with her music. She brings a powerful energy. She has stood on the stages of the Sydney Opera House, so many festivals across this country. She has opened for people such as Jessica Malboy, Uncle Archie, Paul Kelly, Remy, Earthboy, to name a few, and continues to transform this music industry single-handedly within her own powers. I will be passing it over now to Crystal Clyne.
I don't know if I want to stand up. I'll be all right. How you guys going? Look well? I want to acknowledge the traditional elders of this land, past, present, and future. Thank you so much. Thank you. My name's Crystal Clyne, born Crystal Mastrasavis on the Sejuna far west south coast. Sejuna, South Australia, out on the far west coast of South Australia. So, to live out on that beautiful land and, ascend to our creativity, to the water and to the earth, it's just beautiful. So, I've been trying to think of what to say, but I'm just going to go with my spirit. So, I think I, started music when I was, I actually started writing poems and listening to Shakespeare when I was really young, going back to boarding school in Emmanuel College in Adelaide. So I was shifted off there and, opened a world of possibilities for me. But living in Sejuna and even 35 k's out of Sejuna in my teenage years on Kinniba Mission. So that's our little community out there, and I grew up there in my teenage years and, with all my cousins and just writing songs, dancing and, going out bush, go singing and, camping and fishing. So I think a lot of the creativity came from Mother Earth to say, this is what you need to do. I remember, when I was back out on the mission, there's a bigger self for you. There is something more than what's here. You have culture here, but there's more out here. I felt like my ancestors were talking to me. My spirits was talking to me that it's bigger than yourself. Like it's another dimension, another frequency. And even when I was even going back even smaller, my father is a fisherman, still is. And he, being out on the boats and, swimming in the water, I used to sit out on the rocks and look out, and I felt like I was in such a dream state. There's a bigger world for you out there. I was a daydreamer. I still am a daydreamer. And, moving frequencies and sounds and understanding who you are and, to process the healing as well from self-harm or trauma back in your childhood days as well. So I guess I create music to create here, to get what's happening in this little frequency that I got going on, and to my ancestors, and to, I guess, understand and unpack those layers of like healing and trying to find yourself in this world. Because a lot of it, I've lost it as well, growing up and moving away from country and, going to that city life and, trying to chase your dreams. I got to go get the money, I got to work, I got to do what the fuck I got to do, but you always got to come back home at the end of the day. So I've just finished a documentary called Lady Lash, and it's going back to my roots, going back to my Google the country. And that's really opened my creativity and my connection back to country and to music and who we are as people and who we embody, as Indigenous women. And how can I carry those roots on, especially as women, are beautiful, strong, feminine, and coming from the earth, our 7 sisters, learning about our rock holes, sacred rock holes, and, what's happening with it all. So, when I went out to country, like deep in country, not near the beachway, but deep in country, I was sitting there at night and I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? I've just got so much healing that I've done through my life with just being through domestic violence, sexual abuse, and all of that stuff that's happened in my life. I've come back to country and reconnect. And I spoke to my nana and she goes, it's happened. This is what's happened. You just got to keep moving forward now. You've got to pick up those pieces and be strong. Walk in your roots. Who are your people? You got your ancestors with you. And then definitely going back to country is really healing for me, and speaking to my ancestors really spiritually about where I'm going in my life and how music does that for me as well. Music is a part of who I am. There's no other way that I can even explain it. Like, sitting out in the earth, all I can feel, I close my eyes, out on the earth, and I felt like I was the trees. I felt like I was a part of the earth, the dirt, and the moon and the stars. It was just absolutely beautiful, absolutely breathtaking. And I went to sleep that night in my tent. I deadly way put my tent on the other side. Nana's like, go on, don't be go putting your tent long way over that way. But nah, knowing me, I'll be right. I woke up like 3 in.the morning, and next minute, these howls came from the dingoes. And I was like, that was meant for me, to say, just to keep going. You're all right, your ancestors are with you and we're here with you. So I feel like my music embodies the ascending in life and creativity of who we are, and, just doing whatever the fuck you need to do to get here and just to push it out, and having respect and knowing that you have culture and your family and support around you, because that's important. We walk through life sometimes like, oh, I'm gonna work, pay bills and die. No, there's more than life than that, Just ascend and be happy, connect with your family, go back to your roots. That's what it's about, and, spreading the word and understanding where you sit in this scope of society and trying to, harness your gift and share and be at peace with yourself. So yeah, this is, I guess, my soul journey, my spirit journey. soul in love, take my crest of gold, a place to see and be. Honor yourself, my love. A crown of flowers placed, oh, on your blue. Oh, the waters rise, oh, find your you. Oh, no. Oh, the midnight hour, here from dusk to dawn, the eagle makes his power float inside the shores. Oh, ignite the spirits born, heaven in your blue. Oh, the earth is fire, Mother Earth is calling you.
Domadamanga, Dachiba, Dungulaja. Infinite love to you, my sister. So we've heard of an incredible story from Crystal of the journey of an Indigenous woman within music industry, music creation, song creation, journey of song, journey of self, journey of connection back to her country, her beautiful country, and to where she is now in the present. She spoke of this sense of ascendance, this sense of liberating from the traumatic. And for our peoples, it seems a more and more common theme to talk about trauma, to talk about cultural safety, cultural difficulty, to talk about how do you move beyond that, self-determination, empowerment, platform, voice, truth, and Indigenous song. Such a beautiful way to center that. Thank you for that, Sister Crystal. Our next speaker is somebody who's been doing incredible things down here for a number of years. They are someone who is an Indigenous person in the realm of DJing is one thing that they do. They are an incredible vinyl DJ, which is a unique thing, let alone an Indigenous person within that space. They are also a music producer, a drummer, an educator, a filmmaker, a writer. And they have been involved within the music scene of Melbourne for the past 5 years and then some. And they're also moving into the space of event promotion as somebody who more and more feels comfortable within a scene of empowered and more people becoming empowered within music in this space, which is all interconnected. It is interconnected to our beautiful sister Mandy and the power that it is for her to share her song on her country. The inspiration that we get from that is infinite. It is inspired by all of our people contributing. And the next person is a Yorta Yorta and Gunai Kurnai, brother Paul Gorrie.
Thanks, Brother Neil. Appreciate that. I'd like to pay my respects and acknowledge country as well. And yeah, thanks for what you did before. I appreciate that. So thank you. I was actually having a real shit day and feeling real tense, so that's really been helpful. So thanks for that, Art. Can everyone hear me pretty well, or am I kind of mumbling? I've got something prepared that I wrote earlier. It's a little speech. So I'm gonna read from this. It's Monday morning, like every morning. Picture me rolling by Tupac is playing through the car speakers. Oh wait, no, it was Do for Love. No, was it Changes, or was it I Get Around? No, it was Tupac most mornings, but it was on the way to school, which is what I mean. It's the point. From a young age, let's say 8 years old, I learned to love music. I learned to love the sound of a black person, rapping or singing. Wherever it was, I dug it. Which for us, it should be the norm. As blackfellas, it should be the norm. Because it's all our cousins who listen to that music, or our older brothers or sisters, aunties and uncles. Whatever the genre, it was what they were listening to. But in this colonized world that we live in, we're told we're not to love it. We're told not to love the sounds of black voices, even our own voices. For a couple of years when I was young, I blocked out that love and thought I needed to conform and listen to that music and conform to the sounds of the other sounds that were being created, that white sound, the white noise. It was all I could do to make it through the high school I went to. I used to listen to a lot of white men screaming, listening to them screaming about things I didn't know about. Some called it hardcore music. It was a few years of that which I did until I realized that it wasn't what was making me feel connected to anyone else, or any black fellas that I knew, or any black folk in so-called Australia. It did, however, connect me to other people who were angry though, angry at the world, but perhaps not for the same reasons I was. I'm 18 years old now. I come across Black on Both Sides by Yasin Bey, also known as Mos Def, The Low End Theory by Tribe Called Quest, and also Black Star by Mos Def and Talib Kweli. This music opened my mind to what it meant to be a minority in the majority. It opened up me to what blackness meant, a different kind of blackness, because it's from across the seas and it's a different story, but it allowed me to expand my mind and exercise my thinking into who I was and where I stood within my group of people. And when I listen to these people, it lets me take over my mind, and when you hear it, it just takes over you. I often look across the seas to my answer for the world and explanations for the questions I had raised, and often and very often had the answers were there from my favorite hip-hop MCs. But now that I'm older, I believe the answer lies with my people in Victoria, people all around so-called Australia on this continent, the music they are making, the stories they are sharing, the creativity that is flowing with every show or lyric or sound they produce. I'd like to do a special shout out to Lady Lash, Mandy and Allara here, and of course Neil, to wrap up my speech. But yeah, thank you.
Brother Paul spoke about focus of attention and how you can learn from different avenues. You spoke about bringing that attention back here to this land, which is no mistake, with the empowerment of Indigenous peoples across this land, the greater platform given so that not only you can feel stronger, but that you can see more Indigenous people, that they are enabled into spaces that you can see, that you can put on Spotify and you can listen to Indigenous music that might come from any part of this land, possibly on the Deadly Beats playlist, curated by Alethea Beatson over here on my right. Indigenous music is now out there. It is educating, it is strengthening, it is powerful. And we are very blessed with our next guest, who is somebody that embodies that in an incredible, unique way. This guest is Allara Briggs Pattison. She is a Yorta Yorta woman who is an incredible performer. Her range of skills playing on both upright and standard bass complement one another. She's explored jazz, neo-soul, country folk, and many other genres. She has now been exploring a solo project, which if you have not witnessed it, I do encourage you to. It is driven around loop pedals and double bass and upright bass and vocals and so beautifully clapsticks, which are one of the original instruments of this land. I look forward to hearing these words, and I shall pass it over now to Allara Briggs Pattison to share with you.
Thank you. Firstly, I want to pay my respects to the lands and ancestors of the Wurundjeri, of the Kulin Nations. I acknowledge that we sit here today, in some ways, all of us benefiting from living on your stolen lands, where sovereignty hasn't been ceded. I pay my respects to your ancestors, elders in the room, and extend that acknowledgement to all Indigenous, Aboriginal, First People who are here with us today. I would like to pay my respects to my own people, ancestors, elders, country, the Yorta Yorta, and acknowledge that if it wasn't for their continued connection to culture and country, their resilience in the face of extreme adversity, genocide, and multiple government policies put in places to diminish our existence, if it wasn't for my old people, for their love of life and their need for justice, then I wouldn't be sitting here. We are survivors, thanks to our ancestors, reviving our song lines with fingers in the dirt. Soon we'll be thriving because we are our ancestors. We're dancing our song lines with spiritual self-worth. These words come from my song Rekindled system. The essence of the words are clear, the message is strong. I want to talk to you about my understanding of song lines. Song lines come from the dream time, when our lands, waters, and people were created. A songline is a journey through country which tells the story of how the lands were created. These songlines embed Aboriginal lore, L-O-R-E. The stories include important moral lessons and values and are travelled by song and dance over long distances of country. The songs that are sung in traditional language, born from the land itself, are an important part of the stories. So for me, that was an absolute pleasure to hear you sing and to hear some of those stories. Thank you so much. During the time of colonisation, when my old people were put onto missions, for the most part, they were not allowed to practice their culture or speak their language. Their traditional lands were developed, altered to the point of no return for their new dominant culture. Our sacred places, special landmarks that were part of those stories of the dreaming, gifts from the land, ancestors and creator beings to teach us how to live peacefully and as one with the land, respecting all life. In Victoria and across many of our songlines, sacred places and landmarks have been physically dismantled so that the settlers could build houses, roads, churches, shops, our society. The rivers were irrigated, weirs and dams were built, which have dramatically affected our sacred places. In lots of cases, these changes in the rivers have been so detrimental. For example, in 2002, the mouth of the Dungala, or the Murray River, had been threatening to close. That's where the river exits out into the ocean. They had to use dredging to keep it open. If enough water was flowing through the rivers, from where it starts near Mount Kosciuszko in New South Wales, all the way through my country, Yorta country, through to Goolwa, South Australia, and into the Southern Ocean, then I am sure this dredging wouldn't have been needed. Only 4% of the rainfall in the Murray-Darling Basin arrives to the Murray mouth, or the Dungala mouth, and flows into the ocean. 4%. The rest is spent spread out through the irrigation systems, agriculture, and goes towards irrigation, and obviously a little bit evaporated by the sun. This river is more than 60 million years old, and Aboriginal people have been living on and around that river for over 40,000 years, or since the dreaming. The reason I'm saying all of this is to highlight the intimate knowledge the first people of this land has, and in the most important part, still have, and to highlight the changes that we have seen since colonisation. My music is not separate from these stories. There are a few main points I want to make, all of course my personal opinion and knowledge, and you should remember here that each Aboriginal person has their own views and understandings. But in saying that, I'm sure many mob will agree with me what I'm about to say. When you look after the land looks after you. When you obey our traditional law, we will be safe, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And when the land is sick, we are also sick. So what happens when the Murray mouth closes? Let me ask, if our songlines have been physically dismantled, our lands have been raped and pillaged, most of us can't speak our traditional ancient languages, or they are languages, those languages are critically endangered, then how do we remember our laws and lessons of those songlines? How do we respectfully live with our country and each other? My honesty is heartbreaking, and I do not want to upset anyone by making these statements, but I must be honest. I'm not sitting here with the goal to be part of this music industry. I'm sitting here because I care about my culture. I'm the legacy left behind by my old people. I have a responsibility as a Yorta Yorta woman who has had a privileged upbringing to continue learning and sharing my culture, the oldest living culture in the world. But there is a lot of work to do. There is a lot of healing to do. There is a lot of reconciliation to do, and there is sovereignty to cede. The sovereignty is in the land and in our own bodies and spirits. The music I make and want to make is an extension of my opinions, my lessons, and my culture. My songs are the history, present, and futures of how I see the world. I'm sitting here as an Indigenous woman, a song woman. My music, I hope, will help heal us all, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, First Peoples globally, and most importantly, all humans. Because if we can't find a way very soon to respect each other as beings, animals, nature, then we are looking at extinction in the not-so-distant future, climate change. which is hitting Aboriginal, Indigenous people here and around the world first and worst. Our 40, 60, 80,000 plus years of culture and knowledge needs to be respected, and the work we need to do as Aboriginal communities to revive what has been taken away, recorded in archives, in white institutions, and the knowledge living in our hearts of our ancestors is crucial to the continuation of life here in this country. We hold the key. We need to be humble and honest with ourselves. We need to remember our land and our old people. For me now, hopes of my music practices is to learn how to speak fluently in Yorta Yorta, my native tongue. I hope to have a team of people around me to help, as the workload of an independent and self-managed artist is huge. My hopes are for the majority of my team to be First Nations. My hopes are to always keep my integrity as a proud Aboriginal woman. I hope not to be put on a lineup to tick a box to diversify the lineup, but because people resonate with my music, my story, and my hopes for the future. My ultimate hopes are to understand where and how my clan songlines looked. Still marked in the land, able to be spotted by the keen eye of elders and knowledge holders. My hopes are to use music as a tool to heal and educate. My hopes are to empower communities, to inspire others to use their voice, their free voice as an artist. Use the responsibility we have in our platforms, places of power, to make big social and environmental change. I have hopes that we'll have places, studios, hubs if you like, to meet, make music, solo and collectively, all through different regions, cities, remotely. I would love to see more First Nations mob in all levels of the music industry, if they wish. We have such important and unique voices, and these voices need to be heard by mainstream audiences. Inside the music industry, mob also need to feel culturally safe. Time and time again, I see things that are very frustrating. I think it would be incredible if Aboriginal people practicing music in Victoria come together to have a big yarn about how we go about music business. What is okay, what is not okay. For a few weeks ago, I read a Facebook status stating that they were looking for an Indigenous-inspired performance for NAIDOC Week, and that they wanted something contemporary. There's a number of problems with this statement. From my perspective, what does Indigenous-inspired mean? Does it mean a non-Indigenous person playing didgeridoo? Or does it mean they are looking for an Indigenous person to perform their music, but only if it has an Indigenous spin on it? And contemporary. This kind of a statement is confusing and annoying for me to read, but my response was instant and honest. I said, please don't ask for Indigenous inspired. Why not say you're just looking for an Indigenous musician? Otherwise, to me, it sounds like you're looking for a non-Indigenous, but Indigenous inspired almost sounds like you're saying cultural appropriation. So I think as First Nations mob, we need to come up with some guidelines to make sure that we're safe when approached about sharing what we share, which is the oldest living culture in the world, and that needs to be respected properly. My thoughts on this are still confused. I think I said that, didn't have to read that. In most cases, non-Indigenous people are on a steep learning curve, learning through experience when it comes to working with Indigenous people. I think it would be amazing for First Nations artists, to come up with these guidelines. Especially when it comes to booking, contracting, managing, publishing, and even paying us. One of these guidelines might include a dictionary of terms, a list of do's and don'ts, and a minimum industry pay rate when working with First Nations artists. A recognition that here in Australia, we have very, very big responsibilities. That every day we are faced with the grief of colonisation and the heavy tasks of decolonising, continuing our cultural practice in whatever form it is, and ultimately surviving through countless forms of mental, physical and spiritual health conditions. We need strong allies in the music industry. We need to be listened to and supported in a way that we can to do the work that we need to do to continue our culture. Thank you.
Allara, thank you for that beautiful offering to this room of content that words cannot capture. The power of what you hold as an Indigenous woman upon this land in song with a vision is potentially one of the most powerful things on this land at the moment, and that has ever been upon this land. Indigenous women have led the way for so many of our movements, and they will continue to be core to any movement upon this land that leads about true justice that sweeps through all elements of any form of society living upon this land. And the way you expressed those words was a beautiful example of how that can be potentially implemented. Can we have another round of applause for Allara? Time is a fascinating thing. Allara spoke about the dream time, the dreaming. We've had song from Mandy Nicholson in the Woiwurrung language of Wurundjeri people upon this land that is their land, that will continue to be their land, that they are the custodians of, where their custodianship contains important lessons for all of us. How blessed we are to have heard that. How blessed we were to hear from Crystal, sharing song inspired by where she is at in her journey, this place of seeing that we need something special in this land at the moment, where government systems are not devising the structures that we need, where any kind of business entity has not necessarily devised the structures that we need to fulfill the greatest sense of healing and wholeness that Indigenous societies were always about upon these beautiful lands that we are on. Brother Paul spoke about bringing focus back home to this beautiful land. Our gaze can look so far in terms of how we create the right sense of empowerment, right sense of structures. But Sister Allara really powerfully touched on that in terms of, do I even want to participate in an industry? The answer is no, that's not what guides her as she moves forward. Although industry might engage with what she does and rightfully should, operating as business entities upon Indigenous land, but her focus is a cultural one. And the focus of Indigenous people, if I may say it, is a cultural one. Sovereignty has not been ceded, and song is central to sovereignty of Indigenous peoples. Always has been in the past, always has been in the moments leading to the present, always will be in all the moments beyond this present moment. Sound past, sound present, sound future of Indigenous peoples will be something that we shall all, as peoples moving forward, hold an importance to, if humans are to continue upon this planet. As Allara said, we are in great danger of extinction, but Indigenous song can play a key role in that not being the case. Does anyone have any burning questions? Thank you for being present, for sitting in this space with us. You could be so many other places, hearing about so many other things about music at the moment, but you chose to sit here in this space and hear about these important things that these beautiful Indigenous people had to share with you. So thank you for making the decision, all of you, to share this moment with us. Gaunya Yawa, have a beautiful day. Thank you again.